start doing.
This is the
Retireholics sheltering in place.
That's the way I love that. There's nothing like that 401k Fridays intro music, man. I mean, when you hear it, it just soothes the soul.
so much that it can put you right to sleep.
If you don't know, now you know. Mark, why don't you introduce our guest? Who the hell is here with us today?
I don't think our guest needs introduction. However, our guest today is the absolute amazing Rick Unser, host of my favorite podcast, my first sponsor of the Rub, 401k Fridays. I had to dress up for the occasion, as you can see. So as you can tell, the rest of my colleagues did not. So I think we can all understand where the respect level is amongst our group for you.
I put on underwear today. That's
And also, gentlemen, don't forget we are going to commit to this game of don't touch your face. And so if you do touch your face, which you should not, you should drink. And if you've got some kind of hard alcohol at your table, do that. And Mark just touched his face.
Don't touch your face.
Way to go, Mark.
We had talked a little bit about post-pandemic fiduciary review meetings. We talked with Jania on the show. I'd love to get Rick's vibe on it. And then I'd also like to add to it, what would a post-pandemic fiduciary review meeting look like? But also, what does a post-pandemic point of sale look like for a prospect? So the mic's all yours, Rick. How do you feel as an advisor about what these meetings might look like once we get through all this shit?
Yeah, I'm giving that a lot of thought right now. And just personally, as well as from the team standpoint, what are we going to be talking about? What tone are we going to take? Things of that nature. Because I think the reality here is that our world is on very much of a quarterly cycle. So we're sort of at a perfect time right now where we've hit this market inflection. We are coming up on planning for these first quarter meetings. And I think the tone to strike is got to be somewhere between, hey, this is a long-term investment and we have all these great long-term monitoring tools and things look wonderful, versus the world's falling apart and we need to make major decisions in our 401k plan as a result. So I think the truth is somewhere in between. And I think as people are thinking about what to talk about in these meetings with clients coming up, I think there's a few things just to go through. I think a couple of things from a blocking and tackling standpoint. What's going on with your service partners? Does everybody have a business continuity plan? Is everybody still viable? Are you still getting the services that you're paying for? I think a couple basic things like that are going to be important to cover. I think when it comes to investments, I think, again, looking at your traditional monitoring criteria that you have through your investment policy statement, through whatever maybe your advisor's helping you through to put funds on a watch list or whatever. But I think it's also important to reflect a little bit on the short term. I know we don't spend a lot of time thinking about short-term investment issues, but I think it is really important here to look at how investments held up in this shock period that we just went through. And I think as plan sponsors have made decisions over the years and maybe have chosen some investments because they were more conservative, i.e. maybe they chose a target date strategy that had better downside protection to it on paper. Well, did that hold up? And if it didn't, what does that mean? I don't know, but I think that's a good conversation to have. The other thing I think that's really important about that is I think there's a lot of people that are going to have to look their employees in the eye. They're going to get questions from people. And I think having confidence to be able to say, we just reviewed our plan. We looked at how it performed during the market. And yeah, people lost money. I lost money. I'm in the plan. But we're really confident about the path we're on, the investments we've chosen, and feel good about how this plan is set up to help you recover and save for your retirement over the long run. I think those are some important things to do, if not from a fiduciary standpoint, just from a good employer perspective. I think the other thing that's really important is to look at what's actually going on in your plan. There were some articles that I didn't really like that came out early on in this whole thing, which talked about record keepers are being flooded with calls and people are moving to cash or stopping their contributions. And that actually kind of prompted me to put some things out that, through various channels that I'm on. And I think it's important for employers to really take a minute, ask your service partner, hey, what did happen in our plan in the first quarter? Did we have people go to cash? Did we have people take a lot of loans? Did we have people initiate hardship distributions? Did we have people stop contributions? Whatever it might be. What does that data say about what actually happened in our plan? And look at that, look through that and understand what that looks like, because maybe that impacts how you communicate with your employees. Maybe that impacts decisions that you make going forward. I don't know.
Perhaps I'm a bit jaded, Rick, but when I started seeing those posts around and articles and news feeds around people moving to cash, I started to think behind the scenes, why? And again, perhaps I'm too jaded, but my mind initially went to, well, where do most of these folks make their greatest spread? It's on their cash equivalents. It's their stable value. It's their fixed. And I'm going, holy shit, are they really trying to flood the market with some fear and get assets to move into cash because they know their spread on that money is going to make them more money?
But you're
or not, but that's immediately where my mind went when I started to see that.
You mean cash equivalents, or like fixed income
I'm saying
stuff?
Fixed, stable values.
I thought you were going to say the reason why participants want to move to cash, or the reason why they would have, is because it's a zombie fucking apocalypse, bro.
No, I'm not saying why. I'm saying why news, social, why these articles were being pushed out. Not, hey, Chad Johansson, the participant, moved to cash.
Yeah,
because we're seeing that a cash move is, and they're not quoting statistics or where they're getting the info from, because they're Twitter feeds. They're 130 characters, and my mind immediately went to, it's a profitability thing. They know they're going to gain a greater margin on those dollars.
I like a lot of the points that Rick made. Actually, when you started to talk about investments and the review of how the investments performed, I was judging you, Rick, being like, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
Financial advisor perspective.
That's what advisors know about. Yeah.
But you actually gave it a new light. Like, I like the way you positioned it in terms of, hey, let's see how it did in this volatility. Let's see how it did in this crazy world news. So I actually like what you said. But won't it also be very much like trying to look at assessing the damage, right? Like, okay, how many of our employees were furloughed? I'm talking almost outside the 401k a little bit. And were we able to bring them back? Were those 401k participants, were they not 401k participants? Did we have COVID loans? Did we not have COVID loans? Did we have hardships? Did we not have hardships? And then, yes, of course, do we need to do some type of customized education to help these people understand like what actually happened, which is some of the points that you were making. But I think the moral of the story is, originally the subject matter was, how different will this meeting look now that we've gone through this than what it would have looked like? And I think clearly it's going to have some different bullet points on that agenda, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think to your point, it's also somewhere in the meeting, and maybe this doesn't make it into the fiduciary notes or whatever, but I think it's just taking stock of, hey, here's what's happened within our business, JD, to your point, furloughs, terminations, whatever. Here's some plan changes that we've made, and here's the impact on that. But I also think, and this is where I think things are going to start turning here quickly within companies. I don't know how quickly things are going to turn in the economy, but I had a conversation with a longtime client on Friday and just kind of checking in. And, hey, how you doing? How's it going? I know we've had to lay some people off. And he's like, hey, we've made some tough decisions, but I'm not sitting here on my couch, licking my wounds or bemoaning our current situation. Yeah. I'm thinking about, how do we come back bigger, better, stronger? How do we bring these people back that we've laid off? How do we stay in communication? How do we rethink our workforce going forward? So I think that's another thing that I think a lot of companies obviously they've had to make some really hard decisions. And I think people have made some of those really hard decisions over the last couple of weeks and have done the best they can with the information they have. But I think most companies here are planning on surviving this, are planning on coming back bigger, better, stronger. So I think that's another part of this, that as partners on the retirement side of the world or whatever other business you might have with a particular client, how do you help them think through that? How do you be part of that recovery, that growth, that new chapter maybe that this company is trying to open up in the history of their company?